Everybody, so here is the progress I have made on my new glitter table. I've been meaning to video it the entire time I've been doing it, but life has happened and it has really just knocked me off my feet a little bit. So here's what I wanted to show you what I've got so far. I have I've got both of my drawer units. They're the IKEA Alex drawer units that I'm going to use for the base. This is the top. It's 1/2 inch plywood. I did put a little lip on 3 of the sides to try to keep it from sliding once it's on there as much. And this side doesn't. I don't know if I can see, that side doesn't have the lip on it, but I am going to put something on there too to keep it from sliding, hopefully. But anyway, this is the plywood with 1 coat of paint. I am about to do the 2nd coat of paint, and I am going to take you guys along for that one. There's the pups. And there is the table after 2 coats. I think I'm going to put 1 more on before I get ready to put the final top of epoxy and glitter on. I didn't want to bore you with me putting on the 3rd coat of paint because it was just exactly like the 2nd coat. This is me putting on the frog tape that I used to keep the epoxy and glitter from running down the sides. There were a couple of places where I did overlap the tape that apparently I didn't get it sealed off very good and it ran down the sides, but overall it did fairly well, and that was probably my fault because I should have rubbed it together a little bit better than I did. But like I said, overall it did a very good job. Time to measure the epoxy. Let me tell you, that gallon jug and trying to pour it is tough, especially when you're trying to pour it by yourself and trying to keep that little like nozzle that I have for generally pumping the epoxy over the bucket as well, because if I don't keep it over the bucket, it drips everywhere. So I was trying to lift that whole gallon of epoxy by myself. But I did it finally. It took what felt like forever, and I made a mess in the process. But I did get it done, and I could move on to part B. And this is just equal parts of part A and part B. It is the amazing clear cast epoxy, and then time to stir it. I just stirred it and stirred it, and I actually stirred it for more time than I normally stir epoxy, just because I wanted to make sure that I had it stirred very good, because I didn't want to have any problems with it curing properly. So I think I ended up stirring it probably about 6 minutes, and that was before I stirred in the glitter and everything. So when it got stirred in, there was an additional couple of minutes that I stirred it too. I had to mix up another cupful of epoxy, which I knew that I was fairly certain anyway that the 1 cup wasn't going to be enough. 2 full ones probably was a little more than I needed, but I really wanted to have I'd rather have too much than not enough. Side note, my apologies for the video kind of going in and out of focus occasionally. Didn't really realize that my camera was set on autofocus, and when it does that, it will catch a glimpse of movement or whatever and try to refocus itself. So I'm going to try to remember to take it off of autofocus the next time so it doesn't keep going in and out of focus. I also just got out my craft heat gun to try to pop some of the bubbles that weren't coming to the surface super quick, because I didn't want to have any extra air in there, and I wanted to make sure that the surface was as smooth as possible. And then, after waiting about 24 hours, I mixed up another batch of epoxy. And again, it was really probably more than I needed, especially without there being any glitter in it. But I, again, wanted to make sure that there was plenty, and I wanted the surface to be super smooth. Since the glitter, most of it sunk to the bottom of that last layer, it was fairly smooth anyway. But since I'm going to be using this as a desk to write on and whatever, I wanted it to be as smooth as possible. So I didn't really care that there was a little bit more epoxy than I really needed, because like I said, I wanted to make sure that it was super smooth. I didn't want it to be rough at all, because the glitter can often make the surface rough. Okay, here's where it gets tricky. This is when I was trying to figure out the best way to get these sharp edges off of the side of the table. I tried my dad's wire plier things, and it worked, but it wasn't getting as close as I wanted. So then I went and got my cuticle scissors that I normally use on my epoxy, and it worked. It was getting closer than the wire cutter things, but it was taking forever, and it still wasn't getting it as close as I really wanted it. It was getting it to where the sharp edge was gone, but it still wasn't getting it super close. I went and got some sandpaper after I clipped that off and sanded it down, and that did it kind of even a little bit better. But I realized that this was going to take forever if I did it that way. So I ended up doing it the way I had initially planned on doing, and that was with my Dremel. And it went a whole lot quicker with the Dremel. But the reason why I was avoiding it in the first place was because I didn't want to get dust everywhere, but it just wasn't working the other ways. So I did it with the Dremel, and I'm not going to bore you with the whole entire thing because it still took like over an hour to do it all, and that's just me using the alcohol to try and get some of the dust off of it. But yeah, it worked.
Here is the finished product of my glitter desktop. I've got it on 2 of the Alex units from IKEA, and I know that the light doesn't really do glitter justice, but I think it actually looks fairly sparkly in this light. And I added my monogram. Of course, we're looking at it upside down now, but it has been curing now for about 3 days. I want to let it cure for about 2 more before I put anything really on it. I don't plan on putting anything on it most of the time because this is going to be my primary work surface. So I don't plan to like store really anything on it, except I might in the like corners. Maybe. I don't know. I don't really want to. So this is, like I said, this is just going to be my primary work surface. But I'm really kind of happy with how it turned out. I do kind of wish I had put a little bit more glitter in the mixture, but I didn't think I had any more, but then I found it after I'd already mixed it and dumped it, and I'm like, you know, I'm not going to put any more. But there are like a few places, you can't tell as much on video, but there are a couple of places where it doesn't seem as dark as others, but it still looks really good and sparkly. So anyway, that is the finished product of my new craft desk. I've got to finish getting my craft room together, but it is definitely a work in progress. I've got piles everywhere. I don't know how I'm going to store it all, but I will get it. But anyway, hope you guys have a great day, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.